Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Just Women Talking Shit with your host, Jacqueline Cotton. Jacqueline Cotton.
How do we feel this? Oh, my sister took my toy that day, and that just made me so freaking angry. Now let's talk to the sister. Let's talk to your inner child. So layer by layer, we go, and that awareness is what will help change the behavior. And coming back to the body, going into the somatics, not the psychopath, not just the mind, but also the body. Use the mind to build the awareness, but the work has to be done by the body. Because if we were able to do it with our mind, we would have already done it. But nobody taught us how to be with our body, how to feel that emotion.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Just Women Talking Shit with your host, Jacqueline Cotton. Jacqueline Cotton.
Well, hello. How are you?
I'm very excited. It's just like, it's been months we've been planning this, and
I know.
finally we get to do this.
I know. I want to say, what did we do? We scheduled a while back and then we had to reschedule. Is that what happened? Yeah. Well, it is. I don't know if you can tell. It's beautiful here where I'm at today. It's sunny and gorgeous, which is nice. Remind me where you are. If my memory serves me correctly, you're around the world.
Yeah, I'm in India. It's around 8 p.m. for us.
No sun. It's dark. Well, I think that is so cool that I get to connect with women across the world, because getting the time down so that we can both meet is always interesting. But I never really know, what's the weather like there? Is it dark outside right now? So what is the weather like over there right now?
We are transitioning to summer. It's not even spring anymore. It's summer. It's getting hot. And it's evening, so it's a bit more relaxed, but days are getting warmer. I'm
Okay.
not ready for that much of summer.
Well, does it get, this probably sounds ignorant, but like get pretty cool there?
It doesn't. We never
No.
have snow in the regions where I live. India is a very diverse country. You have all sorts of things, like you have mountains and snow, but then we have coastal areas and deserts, and I live mostly in the plains. So we have winters, we have summers, a bit on the extreme, but not too much. I've never seen snow in my life.
Never. She said never. Oh gosh. It is the coolest
Not
thing
yet.
to see.
Let me say not yet.
Just seeing it in person at all is just like, it's magical when you first ever get to see it. I know when I first saw snow, I was like, what? Because again, Mississippi, it's typically hot here, but you've seen snow, right? Okay. Well, that was going to be some inner child stuff right there, which I know is something that you're interested in talking about. But I'd like for you, Shubi, to introduce yourself. She told me how to pronounce her name, and I'm going to let her do that because I don't want to mess it up. She told me, and I'm like, I still can't. I'll mess it up. But she and I have been internet friends through Instagram. I'm not sure how long now. We've kept in touch, and she has some really amazing things that are up for discussion, and I can't wait to dive in. But first, if you will just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, what it is you're doing in the world to make a difference, and just whatever you got, whatever kind of intro you got for me.
So, for anyone who's curious about, my name is Shubhangi. And if you cannot pronounce it, I love Shubi. I go by Shubi. All my internet friends call me Shubi, and it's cute, it's short, and it's very childlike, my inner child work. And something that's very close to my heart is inner child work and self-love. And the reason is because I grew up in an emotionally unstable home. My parents were very loving. They got me all the material things. We were having a very comfortable life. But I just felt that void within me. I felt that emptiness. And I couldn't figure out what it was, because when they told me all the things they did for me, I thought they loved me. And they did in their own way. But for me to experience what emotional love felt like, what self love felt like, it has been a journey. It has been a journey of hunger, of going for the money, of going for promotions and career and drive, and then also finding it in a lover, finding it in my partner, and figuring out that love is not out there. And I was pushed. I don't think I wanted to go on my spiritual journey, but I was pushed, and universe was like, you gotta jump, bitch. We cannot do it over here. And I took a lot of leaps of faith, and here we are. So, in short, I am a women's empowerment coach, and I help women who want to break out of shadows of men and reclaim their voice and be the most powerful, most authentic, and the best version of themselves.
I love how you said the shadows of men. That's interesting. I feel like we should talk about that in a little bit. But I want to touch on something that you said that I didn't know about you. So when we think about inner child work, trauma, stuff like that, I share my story pretty openly. I think you've been following me enough to know that it's all out there in the open. And if it's not out there yet, if you ask me a question, at some point it'll get out there. But I have nothing to hide. And for me, my inner child trauma and the PTSD and nervous system disorders and whatnot, when I talk about my childhood and how rough it was, and it makes sense to people, oh, in the nicest way possible, they'll say, oh, no wonder you're so fucked up. But then you said something about your inner child and feeling love and how your parents bought you things. And so it just makes me think about how I have some clients that have come to me in the past, and I don't have some big grand story of how I had this really tough life. And I often think that I forget about that other side because I don't know, I don't want to say privilege in my mind, I guess, as a little girl. Privileged kids couldn't have had trauma or this inner child angst and absence of love because in my mind, their parents had the nice car and got them the things. And come Christmas time for us, after we get back from break, everybody had new things. Everybody seemed happy. But then I hear you say something like that, and it just gives me a whole new perception and perspective, and also just a lot of questions of what that actually looks like on the other side of things. How does someone recognize even that they have that inner child work they need to do if they feel or it looks like on paper like they had this great life? You know what I mean?
Thank you for sharing that. And definitely, there's so much that's coming in for me to share. I'll first share how we can identify we have some inner child work to do. The first symptom is you don't know yourself. You don't know your hobbies. You don't know what your preferences are. You don't know what your value systems are. And this often happens when we have the people pleaser within us, when we are trying to compensate for the lack of love within us from other people and we forget our identity. That's the first sign. Second sign is when an emotion comes up, you get overwhelmed, you do not know how to do something, and you overreact. You go into unhealthy patterns that you might be able to see later in the future that, oh, I shouldn't have done that. But in the moment, you don't have the tools to deal with that. And the third sign of inner child work is you're disconnected from your creative self. You don't know how to play and how to enjoy in life, and there's only work. So if we can identify those three core needs and see, did I lack in something? If I did, or if something just hit as I was speaking, then inner child work is your go-to. It's the first thing that I teach all of my clients. You've got to know yourself. Let's start journaling, baby. So that's very close to my heart. The second thing that you touched upon was the privilege. Yes, the privilege is there, and then we're comparing two very different things. Now, this is going to be a very touchy topic for a lot of people who are watching this. And the thing is money. What are our beliefs around money? This has nothing to do with the inner child right now. We're associating money with happiness, which is not wrong. I believe money can give us so many luxuries. It's a beautiful energy. And when we see in childhood, someone else getting something and being happy, the void that we have within us, the void that I was talking about, even with the money, I had that void. So anyone who comes from not such a good materialistic background and does not have parents who supported them financially, that void is still there, and we all feel that. And that's what brings us to the inner child healing and the work that I love doing. So if it's not so much about the parents, it's not so much about the happiness, it's a lot of money work. It's a whole different thing. But your inner child is also connected with money and how you view money and how that comes up. And now, something that I would love to equate here for someone who's interested, how do you see your self worth with money because of those incidents that happen? That would be a very good tangent to go on. And I love thought experiments. So just giving you guys some juice.
I'm all for the tangents. I joke all the time. I need when the money is all here and I'm making lots of it, there will be a person that literally keeps my squirrel brain intact. No, bitch, go back. Nope. We weren't done with that conversation because of the tangents that I can go on. However, you say a word that it just, I feel like, is going to be the word we talk about a lot in this episode, and it is the word void. Because I feel like any person from any background, from any walk of life, any religion, can feel that. And that is the word that I think I didn't understand is what I was feeling for such a long time. And I currently still have a void. Void will come and go depending on what stage of my journey I'm in. But like right now, my void is I'm trying to stuff this void full of, I was trying to stuff it full with money here recently and clients. And really, I just want to be back out in nature. So I'm figuring these things out. But what is your mindset around that whole void thing? Is that something that it comes and goes? Is it something that can be there forever? What are your recommendations on someone who feels like they have this void to fill? Because when you have a void, I know you can make a lot of unhealthy choices and it feels like you don't want to be alone. And so you stuff that void with, for me, it was sex, alcohol, just all the good times. And it just left me feeling more empty. So thoughts around that tangent that I just went on?
I love how open and authentic and vulnerable you are. I really appreciate that, Jackie. So, wow. The way I would love to explain this is how I view us as humans and then go into the void. So I consider we all are energy in a physical 3D body. So our energy is distributed in this beautiful 3D structure. And when we come, we are mostly clear. There's a clear channel. All of us, our energy is flowing and everything. That's how God created us. And when we are in the womb, up till when we grow up, right in this moment, there are certain things and vibrations and different things that touch us, and that disrupts the flow of energy. So we develop energy leaks, we develop energetic patterns, and that's the whole, I can go on that for hours. In short, what happens is your energetic system, the clear flow, it gets disrupted. And there's almost, if you consider sponge or something that can be molded, or clay. So you have clay, it's suppose it has a certain structure and you just mold it and you leave it like that. It has that distorted shape. That's what happens to our physical and energetic body connection that's there. And sometimes it develops as diseases on the physical front as well. Very interesting tangent. So what happens when something like that hits us? When we're not prepared, especially as kids, when we're not prepared with the tools to handle, we reject that energy and there's still an imprint, but we're not able to handle that. So what we do is we create almost like a boundary around it and we store it in our energetic system. And every time something that happens which reminds us of that, suppose someone had their mom say something like, oh my God, you're too much and you take too much of my time about in just a moment. And maybe she's a very loving mother, but in a moment she said that, what the kid developed, she was like, oh my God, I'm a burden. And that imprint was there. And now every time someone says no to her request or she has to ask for help, what will happen? That imprint will get stronger and stronger. And the way I see it is every wound that we have, every time it gets triggered and we don't handle it, there's almost like a layer. So we have a layer and then a layer. And once we actually sit with it, we uncover all the layers. And that's why it takes a long time to process and heal our trauma. But the thing that happens with all these layers is the void. The avoidance is actually the void that we all experience. Did that make sense? I gave you a lot there.
No, it made sense. And my brain never thought avoidance, void. It makes perfect sense. The whole imprint process, everything. And something that came to my mind when you said that was, and I brought it up to my mom here within the past couple years, but I remember this, I would say it was a week or two. I don't know if you're familiar with the Spice Girls, but the Spice Girls were my shit. Not only my shit, but my sister, our couple of other friends that we went to this summer program with. And so we had this woman who used to be a cheerleader, and I'll never forget her name. We called her Miss Annalise. And she taught us all of this choreography, and we were up there Spice Girling it up. I was so ready to perform for my mom. And when I got done, she told me that I wasn't very good and was like, "Oh, your sister's the dancer." So I always, forever, throughout almost all my life up until recently, always felt like I was one compared to my sister. I was like sister who couldn't dance, and everybody talked about how pretty she was. And I have what I call snaggletooth, and so I always felt ugly duckling. But to this day, and I'm trying to get out of it, but I realize that I still to this day won't allow myself to fully dance because of what my mom said to me after all that time I prepared. And I was so excited to present to her my moves. She told me I couldn't dance. And so as a almost 36-year-old woman, I'm still out here. I don't know how to dance. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And I'm trying to dance more. So that's kind of what it made me think about when you said that. And I avoid dancing, which I probably really want to dance. I probably really would like to just dance. So avoidance, void, all makes sense. And the imprint thing too. So if you know that you're avoiding things, for the person listening, some people come to mind and some excuses come to mind. Things like, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough money, or I was talking to a friend yesterday and he said that he would love to play instruments. And I was like, "Oh, so then why don't you learn?" And he said, "Because I don't have enough time." And I was like, that's bullshit. Everybody has time. That's literally all we have right now is time. You can move some things around and let some things go, but he's so conditioned to think that a certain way. And so how do you even tackle it? How do you even tackle that void monster? Because it's so easy to avoid it. But over time, it fucks you up, and you miss out on a lot in life too, from my experience.
That's a beautiful thing because a lot of my clients, when they come to me and I give them something, they're just like, "Oh, no, I can't do this." Or they're there and they're not talking about anything. And then I read them because I'm also psychic. So I just read them and I'm like, and then I give them and they were like, "How did you know? Did you come into my house and you see all this?" And it's so funny because they cannot avoid working with me. Is you're gonna hide your shit. I've got senses. No. If you're coming, you're playing big. And if you don't want to play big, go home. Fuck off. That's just like my thing. So, leaving that aside, one of the things that I notice in avoidance, and this is where I feel the anxious avoidant plays a beautiful role. I see them as a dance of the opposites, but also the dance within the same person. When we're avoiding something, we are anxious. And when we're anxious, we're also avoiding. So it's a deeper concept. So, for example, I gave one of my clients, so this is a very interesting example. I hope she wouldn't mind me sharing. So she came to me and she was not saying anything much. And I said, "What do you want? More money? Let's read you for this one." And she was a beautiful woman. She had a lot of potential. And what kept coming was when she was in front of me, I just kept feeling depression. I just felt such a big repulsion. And I saw the green in your background. It's giving me depression, babe. Are you a beige woman? Are you only wearing those colors? Why don't you wear red? And when she was almost there, and I could feel like her face was red up till here. And something beautiful came through my channel, which I shared with her, was like, you're allowed to be disappointed in people. And she was stunned and she didn't say anything. 48 hours later, she messages me. After the session, she cried with her husband and she had everything. She got a red sweater she wore, and she automatically manifested $100 out of a refund from 3 years back. And I was like, see, like the things that we're avoiding, they are so simple and subtle. They are our inner child wounds. In a sense, it's the self-intimacy that we're avoiding. We're avoiding to see ourselves, to love ourselves. And when I say self-love, I never say self-love, I say radical self-love. And radical self-love is not just papa bus. I love that shit. I love putting on a good perfume. I'm dressed up. But radical self-love is more than just showing up pretty. It's about sitting with your shadows and looking at what needs to be looked at. So when we're in the avoidance, when we're avoiding that void that's there, the thing that comes up is all the excuses that are here, all the excuses that our mind is giving us. Don't go there. It's scary. And that's the time when our inner child or the scared younger version of us is doing the thing. And we have to be very mindful in this space that is this really something that I want to give into, or do I want to change? That awareness, once we develop that, I'm choosing the change. So where do I feel this? So I do an emotional process with my clients where I teach them how do you feel the pain and how you identify it. And we identify, so I'm feeling it in my solar plexus. I'm feeling it in my throat. You tell me, what is something that you wanted to speak in that moment? What is something that someone else spoke to you in that moment? What really happened? So once we start removing these layers, and because there are multiple layers, if it's a smaller trauma, you would be able to handle it now. But because it's been years and you were a kid and all these stacking up of layers, that's why you don't feel the emotion just for 90 seconds. You need at least 90 minutes to sit with one wound, because there's so many layers. And as we dispel a layer, as we let go of a layer, maybe there's a deeper thing underneath. Maybe you were angry at your dad all this time, but when you actually looked at it, it was your mom. But you love your mom more, so you're not looking at her. Then we look at the mom and look at did she avoid. Now, we were angry at mom, and now we're going, oh, she compared me to my sister. And now we're saying, now what? Let's dig deep. Let's go. How do we feel this? Oh, my sister took my toy that day, and that just made me so freaking angry. Now let's talk to the sister. Let's talk to your inner child. So layer by layer, we go. And that awareness is what will help change the behavior. And coming back to the body, going into the somatics, not the psychopath, not just the mind, but also the body. Use the mind to build the awareness, but the work has to be done by the body. Because if we were able to do it with our mind, we would have already done it. But nobody taught us how to be with our body, how to feel that emotion. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. And so what I'm getting from it is just one, to get to the awareness, I think you have to be curious why. And then from what I take from everything that you said, it's like you're saying layers, which makes me I don't know, have you ever watched Shrek, the movie? Well, Shrek and Donkey talk about onions and how people are like onions and there are layers, and the human in general, I think, has so many layers. But what I took away from all that is how it's not going to be done in a day. You're not going to get through this shit in a day. So it feels like for the person who probably feels like they're never going to get through this, never going to get past it, just make the commitment to get to know yourself over a lifetime is what I got from that. Because for me, I got real curious whenever I realized that I was repeating all the same mistakes my mom did that I swore I wouldn't. Being in abusive relationships and being around toxic toxicity in general. And here I was living a toxic life. And I just will never forget, for me, it was like this eye-awakening moment when I found myself as a single mom. And I'm like, I had nobody really to ask for help. I had to rely on the help of the community. It made me realize in that moment that I don't want to be like those before me. They got us as far as they could, in my opinion, but like the way I want to be and the person I want to become and the leader I want to become. And all I could think about was, when I die one day, what are they going to say about me? How are people going to remember I made them feel? And in that moment, I didn't feel like people, one, I didn't know many people would show, I didn't think many people would show up. And then two, what will they say? Right now, not a lot of great things. And I probably didn't make people feel great. So for me, that sense of awareness only came when I got curious of like, the common denominator here is me. How can I make a change? And for me, that was evolving my brain, evolving my mind, evolving my emotional intelligence. But it's been a lot of work. So do you think that's why people don't, I mean, that's why people avoid it, is because almost like it seems like the work that goes into the self-discovery and being able to be comfortable in your own skin and know that you don't need other people or other things or resources or money or experiences to fill that void. Do you think that that's why? Because if we got into statistics, which I don't know them, but I know that I think it's like, I guess maybe I do know some statistics, but it's like over 60% of people admit that they have anxiety or depressed. They have this anxiousness in their lives, and it's from situations not doing the work, people pleasing, like you said in the beginning, just keep trudging through whenever really they're not happy at all in the first place. Hi, baby. So thoughts there. Did you see? Guess what?
Beautiful question. Thank you for bringing this up. I would love to start with sharing a bit of my story. And almost 3.5 years back, I was exactly that person whom you described. And my rock bottom, and I've never talked about this because it was like, I didn't even think about it as rock bottom till now, but that was my turning point. I was doing personal development also, but that was when the real shift happened. So I was in this 1 month where shit was hitting the fan. My grandfather was dying. I was having health issues. I was on unpaid leave from my job for a month because it was shitty figuring out. I couldn't go to work. Health is down. My grandpa is dying. I have no fucking clue. And there was one day and I was having panic attacks and anxiety and depression and clinically diagnosed, whatnot. It was a whole shit storm. And one morning, my brother wakes me up and he says, would you get mad? Mom had an accident and someone hit her. So she went for a morning walk and a biker dude hit her. And she actually developed a hole above her lip. So it was morning 6:45 and I'm thinking, oh my God, what do I do? My dad was out of town. So I had to figure out a plan. I called some doctors online and everything. Somehow I took her to this trauma center. I came back and I felt the loneliest I'd ever felt. And my rock bottom was calling my ex after breaking up with him for the fourth time. Not first, not second, not third, fourth time. I broke up with him and then I called him because I had nobody. I had no friends. I had no family members I was close to. And then he kind of shut me off and I don't blame him. It was a bit of a shitty moment. And that was the day when I decided I'm alone in this. Nobody's coming to save me. And then the flip happened for me. So there's usually in the hero's or heroine's journey that one incident where you hit rock bottom and then you realize nobody's coming. And I would love for people not to go through all of that and recognize it before. But in some cases, it's inevitable. We have to have such a high losing state that the numbness and things to stop. I loved food and I would stuff myself with sugar every time I felt emotionally depleted. And I had a lot of work to do around my food habits, around how I perceived myself as well. So that's where I have been. So I truly deeply understand the question. Yes, we go through. Can you also repeat the question? I think I lost track of what your question was in the story.
I think earlier it was those ebbs and the flows of voids, because I think that people feel like like you get a void and it comes and goes, in my opinion, but that the entire thing is just like a journey. But do you think that is why so many people live in a constant state of avoidance? Because they're afraid that the work it takes to quit avoiding it is more work than it takes to avoid it. Does that make sense? Because inner work is a lot of, you said, sitting with your emotions, no one's coming to save me, versus avoiding it is, I'll keep hanging out with these people, I'll keep going to this job that I fucking hate, I will just do what's expected of me because that's what society says, when the reality is I want something entirely different and I'm just going through the motions to fill that void.
Yes, I now remember what I wanted to answer. So there's a beautiful reframe that happened for me personally, was going personal developing, not thinking of it as an end result rather than seeing it as a continuous process. Even at the start of my journey, 2, 3, even last year, I was thinking like, I'll hit a goal and that will be it. And that's it. I've got it. It's done. And that mentality was keeping me more in trauma, even in just trauma of achieving my goal. Life is done. I'm done when this happens. But we have to see taking care of our mental and emotional health the way we see our physical health. You cannot eat good food for 3 months and do exercise and take care of yourself and shit all of that down and expect a good body. And you cannot think of doing the same thing with your mental health. Keep hanging out with all the shitty people and then calling it life is like this. No, you have a choice. Saying no is fucking hard, but being walked upon is harder. And doing it every single day feels hard because you don't have the tools yet. So when we start, we have unconscious incompetence, which means we don't know what we don't know. And then we have a bit of awareness. Oh, I can say no, but how do I say that? And there's conscious incompetence. I don't know how the fuck do I do this? And then you have the tools. And the journey from being conscious about your incapability to being conscious about your capability, that is the personal developing journey. And once you master doing it with some people, your life will get better. And then you'll hit a new obstacle, but it may not happen with as much rigor and force that it did in the first time. Because at the beginning, you're learning a skill. But as we grow, our muscle strengthens. It's almost like picking up a dumbbell. You may not be able to pick up 5 kg or 20 kg at the start of your journey. You build up to 5 kgs. Now 5 kgs is easy, 10 kgs, 15 kgs, 20 kgs. And the same goes for our mental and emotional health. I learned to say no. I learned to say no to my family. I learned to say no to my friends. I learned to say no to my boss. And maybe 6 months down the line, there's a new boss. I can still learn to say that. The void and the gap is between the conscious incompetence and the conscious competence, and the incapability and the capability. That is where a lot of people don't want to make that transition, and they just go back to ignorance's bliss. Effort is needed, yes, but once we shift the mindset from I have to get this done, and I think that's what keeps us trapped, because there's no limit to it. There's confidence, there's internal feeling, but there's no, I cannot give you a marker when you have the confidence. Even someone who goes to speak on stage, I have mentors who do that, and they still tell me that the moment just before speaking, they were freaked out, and they still did it. So there's no one thing where you'll be all confident, you'll be all healed. So rather than seeing it as personal development, if we see it as personal developing, I think it's a beautiful shift in awareness and making the journey easier.
I really love that shift, that perspective. I've never thought about it that way, and that does make total sense. I feel like you probably understand this, but I feel like whenever I get hooked on, say, a book, or I'm speaking on something, it tends to be a topic of conversation for the next few days. Has that ever happened to you? Yeah. The universe or God is like, oh, it's no coincidence. I'm going to drop all these really obvious hints. That's why you're hearing about it here and there. But our conversation because you never know how these things are going to go, right? Give me some things you'd like to talk about, and we just see what happens. We shoot the shit. But whenever I was sitting outside the gym earlier, I'm there before 7 a.m. this morning, which is wonderful. I was up at 4 something thinking, oh, I may go ahead and go in. But I talked myself out of it. And as I found myself going live, I was just like sporadic. I was just like, let's go live, baby. Feeling the energy this morning. And what I spoke on was how we don't have consistency issues necessarily. This commitment to the journey, to the hustle, to the grind. I'm not saying that it's going to be easy or simple, but to the working up so you can pick up that dumbbell. You may look at it for the first few days, but then might pick it up with 2 arms and that was too heavy. So you go down a notch and work up to it. But it seems like when I was talking about this morning, oh shoot, it's coming back at me. And it just feels like a little God wink saying, that's not a coincidence. This was all written by the same hand, which is another thing that keeps coming up. Have you read The Alchemist ever?
Oh my God, I was thinking about it. I'm reading it right now.
Shut up. See, this is what I'm talking about. That book has been talked about not just by me, but by other people. We've started talking about it together, just like, oh, I just finished that, or that's my favorite book. One girl was like, I got a tattoo on my arm that says Maktub. And I was like, what are you trying to tell me, guide? Besides just keep following the clues, enjoy the journey. Even like self-discovery and the inner childhood trauma, it's all a journey. I don't know. Whenever I figured that out was when I started becoming, I guess, transcending and developing, not just looking at the books, but actually up leveling. So I had to share all that with you because I was like, just all the weird little coincidences, all those signs keep popping up. And it even happened in this conversation just now. So look for the signs, people, which has me wondering, since we're the queens of tangents. You said you're psychic. I got to know more about this because I love talking about shit like that.
I would love to touch a bit on The Alchemist.
Oh, yes, go for it.
Alchemist is my favorite book, and that was a book I read like it was so divinely destined. I was in my school library looking for a chemistry book, and someone had placed Alchemist in the chemistry section. And I was like, what is this? I want to take this home. I read it in 3 days. I was just 15. And I was like, oh my God, my brain has opened up. And it led to my first spiritual awakening, which was not a good experience. And I suppressed it. And there's a whole lot story behind it. But when you said about The Alchemist, what I was thinking was nobody promised you that it was going to be easy. In this beginning, universe will give you a taste of it, just like saying to you, have you read the book? Should I spoil it? Or you've read it?
No, I've read it.
So anyone who is afraid of spoilers, please don't listen for 2 minutes. But Santiago, when he leaves, he's shown the vision, he's given the signs, but when he's in it, he's being tested over and over again. He's tested by the thieves, he's tested by the deserts, and even the thieves in the desert. And it's so funny because we think that it would be an easy journey, but nobody said it would be easy, but it would be worth it. So where would you go if it was worth it? I love fun. I love adventure. I'm the kind of gal. This is the funniest. The craziest thing I've done last year was I met someone like this through a Facebook group, and she invited me to her city, and she said, this ritual is going on at midnight. You come. And I actually went. I booked a flight. I went. I didn't know this person. And she was like, she brought me to my spiritual mother, and we had a whole thing. And I am the girl. I say my life is a synchronicity. I never use the word coincidence anymore. I love synchronicities, and my life is a synchronicity, and I'm living, breathing, all that. And that blends beautifully into the psychic work, because living in synchronicity is being aware, being open, and looking at the signs. There are moments when I was thinking about something earlier today, and I was picking up the clothes and the dragonfly flew. And I was like, yes, this is the idea we're going to execute. Done. Good job, big guy. I am on the track. And this has often happened so beautifully for me, because there are people who will talk about unicorns, and I don't hate unicorns or love unicorns, but I don't collect them or watch them. But my cousin would send me a lipstick she bought which has unicorn on it, and I'm like, I know I live in that realm now. So psychic work is connecting to the divine mind. It's connecting to the super intelligence and being able to tap into your intuition. so much that sometimes it's just the voice speaking in your head and you're trusting, oh, that's what I got to do.
I love it. I used to be super into the whole. So before I switched back to Jacqueline Cotton, I was exploring this whole spiritual support system thing. And I've been told by many, and I've had several coincidences, right? Synchronicities, where I think everybody has that psychic ability. But anyway, so when you said that, I was like, I got to hear about this. So would you agree that everyone has psychic abilities?
I do.
How do you, being in Mississippi, it's super taboo, stuff like that. We're supposed to be reading the Bible, and it's still some stinking thinking around here is what I call it. But we're not supposed to talk about stuff like that. And you especially don't admit it if you think you are psychic. But with the whole, I feel like, inner child thing that we were talking about, we can close it out with the psychicness, because I feel like we were the most psychic and intuitive when we were kids. And somebody came along and smothered that little flame. So, what are your thoughts there?
Generally more psychic. And if you see kids and old people, they are almost always having a good time with each other. Both are slow, both are just in their emotions and their body, not so much in the head anymore. And that's because we are closer to source in either of these life endpoints, if I may call them life points, ending and the beginning. And we all have intuition. We all are psychic. We may not be a psychic reader. All of us may not choose that, but we all are inherently knowing and connected. Sometimes we suppress that knowing. Sometimes we might not like the knowing. And I definitely have had that experience. I shared about my relationship and breaking up with my ex, and I broke up with him 4 times. So the 4th time was not something that I chose. It was chosen for me, and I was sitting in a meditation, and I was on the open on my terrace, and it's almost like a voice from above was speaking to me, and I have to let him go. And I was like, but no, I can't. Oh my God, I can't let him go. And we were playing this dance where he would not treat me well. He would bring out my anxiety and my anxious attachment, and he would play the avoidance. So we were having this whole toxic dance with each other. But when I really leaned into that intuitive knowing, I cried. Because at some level, I knew it resonated. I knew it was right. The thing to look out for is the voice that you're hearing in your head. If you let it land, if you let it be felt, do you feel a resonance? Do you feel like, yes, this is the right thing? I know this is hard, but this is the right thing to do. And I've had several of those moments ever since. But that was the first time when I was like, I'm hearing a voice. And that's different for different people. Even for me, everyone speaks to me differently. And I feel like even I am such a flavor of intuition and psychicness. So there are auditory people who hear. I only hear when it's like really God, highest level of you're fucking shit up. And like, this is the level 1 people, like code red, priority 1. This girl needs to be shut down. So that's when I hear. Otherwise, my auditory channel doesn't work that much. Mostly for me, when I connect to someone, I feel it in my body. I feel that the chakra is blocked for you. And I often see visions. So it would give me a number, maybe your age or a relationship or a mother holding a baby or a girl sitting on a fence or with her feet on in the water, something like that. And that would be like, okay, what are you telling me? And slowly the more I share, the more the client says, yeah, that's the thing. And the funny, quirky thing about me is something in my human design. I'm not sure if you share about. Do you know about human design? You do. Perfect. So in human design, we have this spleen, which is a defined center for me. Maybe it's not a defined center for you, but if you have any of the gates, you can figure out which of those is your strongest sense of intuition, which I think is pretty cool if someone wants to go down that rabbit hole. I found out through one of my friends that I have the strongest sense of smell. But I don't know how to use it. I don't use that in my coaching because I do online coaching and I cannot smell my clients. And that's not a good thing to smell your clients. Anyways, but for me, the way it shows up almost all the time is when I'm connecting to my divine partner and I'm still single. So whenever I connect to him, I have this special smell. And whenever I'm sad or I'm taking a walk and I'm thinking about him, and just like that smell would blow past me and I would have no clue where it came from. Or I would have some smell and it would remind me of a memory. So that sense is for me personally. But for my clients, it's like the feeling, the visual. So it's a beautiful mix and we all can access it in our own unique flavor.
We'll have to do a whole different episode for the whole psychic thing because I am genuinely interested in picking your brain more on this, but we're about out of time. I am curious though, throughout this entire thing, did anything come through in regards to me?
Your solar plexus.
What's that mean? What am I doing with it? Because I feel like that is it blocked? Because tell me, what do you know?
It's almost like there's this connection in your throat. It's like something you're wanting to say, but it's coming out of powerlessness. It's like, oh, I want this. It's
Yeah.
almost like a child saying instead of an adult speaking, and that's coming from a not small in the sense that it's not. It's almost like I can feel it now. Like in your solar plexus, it's almost like someone has slit your tummy open, going at the front of you, almost like someone's ripping it apart.
I'm gutted. This makes sense.
Yeah.
This makes total sense. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I was just curious. Let her tell me something just for that confirmation.
Did
Thank
you
you
get
for
the
that.
confirmation?
I got some confirmation. Yeah. Thank you for that. Oh, man. This has been good. I do feel like we could talk for like a very long time, though. And I told myself, this is the year, Jacqueline. This is the year. We stick to time frames and all the things. So we're at the end of our time. And I just wanted to, one, thank you for taking the time because I know it's nighttime there to sit with me and to chat with me and shoot the shit. I've really been looking forward to it. We've only gotten to talk through the DMs so far. So this has been really wonderful. Two, you are a beautiful human, both outside looking in. And was it you who I chatted with through comments talking about a perfect date?
Oh, that was me.
Was that you? I want that date so bad. When you described it, I was like, how the fuck does she know that is?
Oh my God, that's my dream date. If someone gives that to me, I'm like, I'm sold. Marry me.
It was so good. And I remember, wasn't it just so simple? Going for a walk, reading poetry, just the simple things too. But this has been so refreshing to get to see you and hear you. And I just wanted to know a couple more things. I always part with what's on your heart. I don't know where I came up with that shit, but it's sticking. So if you have any final words of wisdom, anything that you didn't get to share when we were chatting that you want to share with everybody now, just some last words to get them through, that person who might be struggling. And then if you will share how everyone can find you in the online space and any offers that you might have going on right now.
So when you were speaking, like I get this beautiful download, and it said, when love ceases to exist, you cease to exist. And that was beautiful. So take step forwards with love. Go with love, flow with love, lead with love, let go with love, laugh with love, and love. Like love with a lot of love in your heart because I feel like I'm such a loving person. I think I love love. And that's the message I want to leave and that I want to lead as my legacy. Second thing, you can always find me on Instagram. I am Shubhangi Coach. I'm pretty sure there'll be a link if people cannot pronounce my name. So you can always find me through the link. I'm on Instagram. Come say hi. Let me know what your biggest download was. Let me know if you got any chills listening to this because I love the psychics and intuitors who get the chills. I'm the chill girly. So please let us know and share on your stories like how the episode went. And I would love to explore more on inner child, intuition, and self-love with you. If you're curious about that, I have a beautiful offering that works on this trifecta, and we work with your inner child and your inner psychic both at the same time to help you reclaim your voice, to help you step out of the shadows of men and being the most powerful self-led woman that you can be in this lifetime. And we could do it through one-on-one coaching, and there's a lot of learning modules as well. So you're going to enjoy your time with me. If you enjoyed the podcast, that's going to be like even more delicious, lovelier, like a cake with multiple layers. You've not even touched a layer. So when you come, I love what I do.
I can tell. It definitely shows. And like you definitely radiate love. Isn't it funny that that's the download that came through for you? And in The Alchemist, from what I drew from that text, was that is the universal language. That is the world's language, is love. So I love that you ended with that. That's so good. All right. Thank you again for being on. And you guys go find her, follow her, buy her things, travel around the world to meet her if you get the opportunity. I've always wanted to visit. I want to see all the world. I want to be like Santiago, and I want to go with my sheep and go find my personal legend. It sounds like such a trip. Except for I don't want to get robbed. He got robbed a lot, so I don't want that part. But go follow her. Thank you again for being on Just Women Talking Shit. I'm glad that we finally got to make it happen. I think that it was supposed to happen right now, not back then when we tried scheduling.
Oh, definitely. The energy now and then. Last 3 minutes, I said, last 3 months were almost me in a completely different headspace and timeline. So I'm really glad it happened exactly when it's happening. You're reading Alchemist, I'm reading Alchemist, we're talking shit. And thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for inviting me and just giving me one of the best hours of my life. So thank you so much.
One of the best hours of your life. God, you have a way with words, and that makes me feel so appreciated and seen and heard. So thank you for that so much. Follow the synchronicities, people. You can find your people literally around the world. But I think it's just putting yourself out there. Wouldn't you agree? You really do. Thank you again. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.